Anyone who says this show is like Stranger Things doesn't know what they're talking about.
It's bullshit.
Hey guys, so the German Netflix original series Dark is one of the most messed up and underrated shows out there. So we're going to run through the characters and timeline in chronological order from 1921 to 2053 and talk everything we've learned in Dark Season 2. Obvious warning, if you haven't seen both seasons, sit on your ass and marathon all 18 episodes. I promise you, you will not regret it. We begin with a passage in the caves being built by who we find out to be a young Noah and another unknown man. Noah kills the other man on Adam's orders, the disfigured and mysterious leader of Nics&Nacs, because he has apparently lost faith. At this time, Adam tells adult Noah to find the missing pages in the notebook. He informs him to prepare for an apocalypse that will occur in 6 days on June 27th, 2020. Future Jonas arrives from 2053 and is taken to Erna's house to stay with her and her children Agnes and Noah. When he wakes, he leaves for the caves, but the passage is still under construction and won't be finished for another 32 years. After discovering the pages and what they contain about what happened to his daughter Charlotte and lover Elizabeth, adult Noah lies to Adam, saying old Claudia didn't have them. Young and adult Noah take Jonas to meet Adam, who reveals his true identity to be Jonas himself.
Ah, fuck you.
Young Noah is then instructed to leave to 2020 to visit adult Jonas and give him the letter from Martha. Jonas asks Adam for answers, to which he explains Nics&Nacs is about launching a war on time and God. However, Jonas doesn't care about this and just wants to return to 2020. Adam shows Jonas the God particle they created and explains that it is the key to him breaking the 33-year cycle. Jonas leaves for 2019 through the God particle to stop adult Michael from killing himself, believing that this will break the cycle. However, Jonas is being deceived, confirmed by adult Magnus, who asks Adam why he didn't tell Jonas the truth about his role in everything. Adult Noah confronts Adam with the missing pages and says he's been used and betrayed, trying and failing to kill him. However, adult Agnes, Noah's sister, arrives and kills him. Adult Magnus, and who we assume to be Franziska, activate the God particle, enabling old Adam to travel to 2020. Old Claudia buries the time machine in the future yard of adult Claudia for her to find in 1987. Adult Agnes meets old Claudia in the bunker and receives instructions to betray her to Noah. So Agnes tells Noah that Claudia has the missing pages in exchange for being let back into Nics&Nacs. Old Claudia visits her father, adult Egon, at his office and apologizes, then visits adult H.T. Tannhaus, giving him a journey through time and tells him to explain the machine to her one day. Adult Noah finds old Claudia, who says that Adam's paradise is a lie, before killing her and taking the pages. Upon looking at the pages, he gets upset by what he learns about Charlotte, his daughter. Egon examines old Claudia's body in the morgue and suspects she was an accomplice to Helga's abduction. Child Helga returns home after travelling back from 1987 through the chair. Greta, his mother, asks Noah to help with him and gets him to speak. Hannah arrives from 2020 and goes to Egon's office to find Ulrich. She asks Ulrich to choose between her and Katarina at the prison, but she doesn't believe him when he chooses her, abandoning him there.
You one crazy ass bitch.
At this point, Inez has been stealing medication from the hospital, using to drug Michael to make him sleep. Noah successfully transports child Helga back to 1954. Old Egon is now retired and suffering from advanced cancer. Doubting his actions in 1953, he visits adult Helga in the psychiatric hospital and asks him about Mads's disappearance, and then visits old Ulrich in the psych ward, but he still doesn't understand Ulrich's identity. Upon a second visit, Ulrich reveals his identity to him. After retrieving a photo of Mikkel, he returns to Ulrich and shows him the picture. After finding out his son is in this time period, Ulrich breaks out of the hospital, finds Mikkel, and they head to the caves to return to 2020. However, Inez, Egon, and the police get there just in time and arrest Ulrich. While in the back of the police car, they drive past young Magnus, Franziska, Martha, Bartos, and child Elizabeth, who travelled from 2020. From inside the car is unable to contact them, and they return to their time. Old Claudia visits adult Claudia at her office at the power plant and reveals her identity. Old Claudia shows adult Claudia the time machine in the caves and tells her she must stop Adam. Claudia digs up the time machine that old Claudia had buried for her in 1954. When she visits adult Helga, asking him why he gave her a journey through time, he tells her to never trust Noah. She then visits old HT Townhouse, and he explains that a journey through time was given to him from the future before he wrote it. Claudia then travels to 2020. Upon returning, she has the God particle analysed and records herself discussing everything she has learnt about it. After learning of her father's future and death, she asks him to move in with her in the hopes of avoiding his death. During his first chemo session, he tells Claudia that time travel is real, telling her everything he knows about Ulrich, Michael, and the caves. He wants to have the police search the caves, but she refuses, and when he doesn't listen, they fight, he falls, and hits his head. Instead of calling for help, Claudia decides to let him die, thinking this is a sacrifice she needs to make to save adult Regina. After spending a year learning from old Claudia, Jonas arrives at adult Claudia's house and says she must come with him immediately. The two of them then use the time machine to reopen the passage and travel to 2020 before the apocalypse. Young Jonas, Magnus, Martha and Bartos go to the lake, and Jonas finds the St. Christopher medallion in the sand. After meeting with Adam, Jonas arrives from 1921 and kisses Martha at the lake, after young Jonas leaves to help his grandmother Inez. He then finds his father Michael at his house while his mother and past self are at the Nielsen party. Charlotte tells adult Peter she is going to attend the anniversary party alone, leading Peter to visit Benny, and Francisca sees. Katerina and Ulrich throw their 25th wedding anniversary party, when of all time seems appropriate for Ulrich and Hannah to begin their affair. Jonas and Hannah go to the anniversary party, and Martha gives Jonas the St. Christopher medallion necklace that she made for him, and they have sex. Michael reveals that it was a future version of young Jonas that showed child Mikkel, his younger self, the passage to 1986 on the night he disappeared.
Mind blown.
After talking with Adam, Jonas believes his mission is to stop his father from killing himself and shows him his suicide note. However, Michael wasn't suicidal, and it was Jonas travelling back that had caused it.
Surprise!
Old Claudia interrupts their conversation and tells Jonas he must wage war against himself, and that she has seen a world without him and it isn't exactly what he expects. Claudia says they all must make sacrifices, so Michael writes the suicide letter and hangs himself, and Claudia and Jonas travel to the caves to begin their year together before Jonas goes back to 1987 to visit adult Claudia. Bartos and Martha break up. Clausen takes over the missing persons case after requesting it. Alexander has Waller bring the radioactive waste back to the power plant and covered in concrete. Katerina explores the caves and uses Ulrich's findings to try and understand what happened to him and Mikkel. Just as adult Hannah is about to kill herself, adult Jonas shows up. He shows her the time machine and takes her to 1987 to see Inez and Mikkel/Michael at home together. Bartos tells adult Regina, who's suffering from breast cancer, that Claudia isn't dead, and visited last fall, giving her the photo of her and Claudia from 1986. Elizabeth finds a photo of adult Noah in an old book at HT Townhouse's shop. Hannah decides that Charlotte should meet adult Jonas, who shows him Noah and the sick Mundus photo from 1921, and he tells them all about the travellers. He tells Charlotte about Noah and how Claudia used them all to further her agenda. Adult Claudia arrives from 1986 after digging up the time machine and learns adult Regina has cancer. Claudia goes to the power plant looking for her future self, but learns Alexander is now in charge. She goes to the library and Googles herself, learning about her own disappearance in 1987. Charlotte takes Hannah and Jonas to the bunker and shows them all the files she's collected. Charlotte brings Katerina to the bunker and they explain everything to her, but she doesn't believe them. She goes to the school records to look up Michael Conwald and finds a picture of Mikkel in a class photo and believes them. Martha finds Ulrich's police files in Mikkel's room and shows Magnus. Magnus, Martha, Francisca and Elizabeth go to the caves where they run into Bartos. They leave him tied up and take the time machine from him. They then return to the caves the next day to get answers from him, and he tells them about the time machine, taking them to 1987 where Ulrich sees them from the police car. After returning, Martha finds the necklace adult Jonas left for her in her room. Clausen and Charlotte re-interview Regina, who tells them about adult Jonas and shows them his files from the hotel room. Clausen and Waller interview Alexander, with most questions being about his past, later arresting him for identity theft. Clausen reveals that his brother Alexander Kohler disappeared in 1986 and that's whose identity he stole. Clausen says he knew to go to Winden to look for him because he had received a letter from an anonymous source. After his discovery of the missing pages, Noah approaches Charlotte and tells her that he's her father and that he plans on killing Adam so that everyone, not just those in the bunker, will survive. He doesn't tell her who her mother is. Elizabeth, her daughter, for obvious reasons.
Wait, hold on. Stop.
Hannah tells Katerina about adult Jonas's time machine. However, Hannah steals the time machine and leaves for 1954 to visit Ulrich in prison. Martha meets adult Jonas, who reveals his true identity to her. Katerina shows up and reveals that Jonas is actually her nephew because Mikkel and Michael are the same person. Jonas tells them Hannah took the machine, but Martha says Magnus has a time machine, which they took off Bartos. Magnus, Franziska, and Elizabeth decide to tell Peter and Charlotte about time travel, only to learn that they already knew. Magnus then brings the time machine to Martha and Katerina. Jonas tells Martha she needs to go to the bunker because he can't watch her die again. She refuses, so he pulls a gun on her and forces her into the bunker. Future Jonas and adult Claudia arrive from 1987 and he instructs her to bring the time machine to the bunker. After returning home from the bunker, young Noah arrives from 1921 and gives Jonas a letter from Martha saying he must save Bartos, Magnus, Franziska, and then Agnes and young Noah so that Martha will live and the prophecy is fulfilled. Adult Jonas finds the three of them at the Nielsen home and uses the time machine to bring them to safety. Peter takes Elizabeth into the bunker for protection from the apocalypse, unable to contact Charlotte and Franziska, and are later joined by Claudia, Regina, and young Noah. Katerina finds the maps of the cave and flashlight in Jonas's room, heading to the caves and opens the passage. Clausen gets a search warrant for the power plant and has them dig up the radioactive waste, despite Charlotte's protests. The God particle is created, and a wormhole between 2020 and 2053 opens up, allowing Charlotte, who's at the nuclear power plant, to make contact with adult Elizabeth. After being forced into the bunker by adult Jonas, Martha leaves and returns to the Carnwald house where she finds future Jonas, and they kiss. Adam arrives from 1921, killing Martha to make sure Jonas will eventually turn into Adam.
You suck!
Just before the apocalypse occurs, Otherworld Martha arrives and uses a new time travel device to bring herself and Jonas to safety, potentially to her universe. In 2053, Jonas is stuck in a post-apocalyptic Wyndham. Having learned about the apocalypse, he discovers the God particle in the power plant ruins and plans to stop it by using it to travel back in time. However, he is caught going into the dead zone and is sentenced to death by adult Elizabeth, as it is prohibited. He is hanged, but Elizabeth saves his life at the last second. Elizabeth's young female follower breaks Jonas out of his cell and demands he show her what's really in the dead zone. He shows her the God particle, temporarily stabilizes it, and goes through the portal, where he travels to 1921. Elizabeth catches the young girl leaving the power plant, and they have a confrontation. Elizabeth digs up a box of personal belongings, and then goes to the power plant and makes contact with Charlotte when the wormhole is created, allowing her to see into 2020. So we come to the end of season 2. Where are our characters now? Well, future Jonas gets whisked away with Otherworld Martha, so we can only assume that they're in another universe. Adam, who the fuck knows? However, he didn't go through the caves, portal, or have a time machine. He also said that every man has 3 lives, so let's hope he's dead. Hannah is still in 1954 flirting with Egon after fucking with Ulrich. Katerina left her kids like the amazing mother she is and travelled through the passage in the caves to possibly 1954 or 1987. After seeing her daughter/mother, Charlotte appeared to have been sucked into the portal, so maybe 2053? Claudia, Regina, Peter, Elizabeth, and young Noah are all in the bunker with the time machine. Adult Jonas saves Bartos, Magnus, and Franziska using the time machine to travel to another time. I'm assuming they're the creators of Sic Mundus, so they could have jumped to any year. Well, that's the end of my explained video of Dark Season 2. Probably the most challenging video I've ever put together. If you like a Season 3 theory video or have any Dark related theories yourself, leave them down in the comments. I hope you guys enjoyed and I'll talk to you guys later. Bye.